Hi, Kien. Thanks for joining us. Hello.
Hi, I'm very happy to chat with you.
Awesome. So, the main goal is to kind of just get an idea of the whole process and how you approached it, mainly so others can, see themselves in you or learn from, things that you did. So, first, I just love if you could introduce yourselves, give a little bit about your background, and, you know, yeah, just kind of introduce yourself a bit if that's okay.
Yeah, so my name is Kien. So I'm originally from Vietnam. I came here to the US to for my college. So I studied at Luther College in Decorah, Iowa. So and then after I studied there for 4 years, I um, went to do kind of like a post-bac research assistant job full time for a year at the University of Iowa. Uh, and my field is neuroscience and neurosurgery. So right now, so I chose to enroll in a PhD in psychology with a concentration in behavioral and cognitive neuroscience at the University of Iowa. So that was among some other offers that I got. So I've been to got interviews. I've been to the East Coast, been to the West Coast, been to other places in the Midwest, and got there as well. But after all, I chose to stay in Iowa and do my PhD.
Awesome. Okay, I have many more questions. So, you okay, so you graduated undergrad, you were working in like a research position, and w- was your PhD a slight pivot from your undergrad degree, or how did you approach that?
Well, not a whole lot. So my undergrad degree was in psychology, general psychology, but the electives that I chose along with the behavioral and cognitive neuroscience. So I took some classes in the brain and behavior and learning, etc. Um, although I wouldn't say it's very specialized, but I was kind of going into the research route rather than the clinical route that some people with a study would have gone to.
Hmm.
Um, so I was lucky enough to, when I got the research position after my undergrad, it was pretty much within the neuroscience in human research, especially in neuroscience. So that was pretty much in line with what I wanted to go towards.
Hmm. Yeah, I know, especially in this space, a lot of people get torn between clinical or research based, but yeah, I think, you having worked in that space, you kind of started to understand what was a better fit for you. Is that true?
Yeah. So I mean, before I got the job offer at the University of Iowa, I also got some other places that offered me positions in research as well, but sometimes it's kind of not related to psychology or neuroscience. Like so it could be something more biology based or something more a bit more like cancer research, for example, like that. So it was good that I got a job where I can get to the field and know what it's like and decide, okay, this is the right thing that I want to do and probably continue to do that in the next 5 years. Um,
Hmm. Okay, yeah, that's awesome. And so, were you an international student applying at this point for your PhD?
yes.
Okay. And I know also some people stress about that, right? Because there's like lots of unknowns with, visa issues or things. Could you talk a little bit about that?
I would say, I would say though, so um, personally for me, so in neuroscience specifically speaking, there are actually two ways in which the process can work. One is that you apply to programs that will admit you to a specific lab. So you have to talk to the supervisor in that lab, and they will have to agree that they have the funding, they have the spot open for you to join in. Um, and then there's a second route, usually people can also apply through like a program, uh, and comes to where you apply for so like multiple applicants apply to the same program, and then they will select uh, um, will select you, and then you do rotation in that program.
Mhm.
So in those program-based admission, usually international student will have, I would say, will have more disadvantages
Mm.
because the funding that is allocated for those programs or usually have a requirement of U.S. citizen.
Like on the
So
NIH or
so
NSF or something.
yes. So like T32 and those kind of things. So usually if an international student is admitted, usually it comes from other sources that
Mm.
are way more limited than that. So I would say that would be the challenge for personally for me, because I did apply to both ways. And
Mhm.
I personally find that applying through the lab base
Mhm.
um, is more advantageous, because in that way, usually it only depends on the
Mhm.
PI that has all the power to say, oh, I have funding to support this person. So basically, you're
Mhm.
equal to any
Mhm.
other applicants. So that
Mhm.
is great. I mean, there's a good side about a program-based admission as well, because you will get to do rotation, because
Mhm.
you get to try different labs, you know, try different things.
Mhm.
And there's a good side too. And I'm not saying that no
Mhm.
one's going to be admitted there. I
Mhm.
know a lot of my friends too. They're also international students, and they're also successful with that. But I
Mhm.
would just say that it will be harder, definitely. But if you go through the route of lab-based admission, then there's basically no difference between international student
Yeah.
and national, actually.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's what I would recommend everybody do because I think it's easier for everybody, like no matter international status or not, because of what you just said. Like it's just a more direct route. Like there's less variables to contend with. So I just think it's just typically a little bit better on the outcome for most people. Okay, cool. So you know, where were you before and after the Fearless Grad program? Like what kind of changed?
Can you repeat that again? Because you were breaking up a
Yeah, I
little
don't,
bit. Sorry.
sorry about that. Where were you before the Fearless Grad program and where are you after, like now?
I think before the Fearless Grad program, well, I I certainly know that I wanted to do a PhD, so which is why, I signed up for the program, but I wasn't sure, about the process. And also, um, one of the things that I had quite a challenge with is, how to present myself, how to present my ideas, because I know that I have some ideas about, what I want to do and where I want to be, but I don't really know the mechanics or the flow when you write everything down so that it will be clear and will support myself as a position of, as a scholar, and
Hmm.
that I will have a promise of success
Hmm.
in the programs. That's something that I think the program helps me with the most. You have a very clear picture of this is the process that the steps to go through, and then also a very customized and individualized editing process with my resume, and also with my SOP. Um,
Hmm.
those are well very helpful, because so now I have a better idea of like, okay, um, this will be the things I want to show them, to show them that on my resume and on my SOP, to show them that I'm a scholar, and I would be a good fit for this job, basically,
Yeah.
for the job as a PhD student.
I love that you called it a job because I think that it just kind of sets the stage for you going in to be successful because like you're coming in with I mean, yeah, you're a student, but like you're an elevated student, you know what I mean? And like just that viewpoint of like, you kind of being a little bit more in the driver's seat, versus like, well, I hope they give me something cool, right? Like, I think that that will set you up more to be successful also when you get there. Hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what was the biggest benefit? Like, if you had to pick one or two things that really helped you the most?
You're talking about the program?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it I think the most helpful thing, two things. One is the part when we learn about how to research the school and research the lab, because when I just started, I just Googled whatever that is in the field that I was interested in and hope that some lab would just come up. And sometimes they're overseas, sometimes they are based in the US, but I'm not sure if they're still running, and
Mm.
all that stuff. So having kind of the worksheets that we had, and then we can input the information in there, to make sure that we're kind of in a good spot of like finding a lab that we could possibly work in.
Mhm.
And that kind of clears up a lot. You can kind of rule out the ones that you think would not be a good fit or might not have a good prospect or those kind of things.
Mhm.
Um, so that's one. Um, the second thing I think was very helpful was the resume edit. Um, um, to be specific, because the B one was also pretty good, but I found the resume one way more helpful, just because we kind of learn about how to condense so much information into two to 4 pages, if
Mhm.
it's 4 pages if it's a CV. But um and then to present ourselves in a language that would that would basically tell them the story, rather than just kind of list out things and then ask them
Yeah.
to connect themselves. So those are the things that I found very helpful.
Yeah. You're right. Because like we get so excited of like, look at, I did this thing, I used this piece of equipment, or like but then they're like, well, what happened next? Right. And yeah, it is like a little bit of a storytelling in the resume, which definitely helps. That's awesome. I'm glad. Okay. Okay. More details. How many schools did you apply to?
So I applied to nine programs. Um,
And how many
and
offers
then
did you get?
so I got 6 interviews, and I got 3 offers with full funding and 2 offers without funding. So I wouldn't consider that
Mhm.
um, a successful offer, but I had 3 solid offers to choose from.
That's awesome. Okay. Very cool. And so what made you pick the school that you did? What made you pick Iowa? Like what was because it is hard. Like people don't believe it, but when you have multiple offers, it's a hard decision. So how did you make that?
It it was, yes. So out of all the 6 interviews that I went to, 4 of them were in person and 2 of them were virtual. So I got to visit 4 schools, and them offered me a fully funded offer. And I had a mix of, I went to the West Coast, I went to the East Coast, and I also had some in the Midwest, where I'm currently at right now. So there, it was a very, very hard decision, because I took a lot into account. I thought about the location, if I want to live there for 5 years, the climate, the weather, and then the diversity of the population. Because I'll be 30 by the time I finish my PhD. That's a lot of time. So I want to make sure I live somewhere that it's good and affordable. I care about the stipend. I care about, of course, the most important thing. I care about the lab, what they do, if I like it or not. When I actually got there and see the work that they do and see the workplace, can I imagine myself being there, being surrounded by those people for the next 5 years and doing that kind of a work? And
Mhm.
imagine that would be my workspace every day for 5 years. Would I like that? And it's totally different from from what I expected before I even apply. Because before you apply, you only saw the lab website. You talk to the PI. I talked to the PI beforehand. I did I did see the website, but that's all it. But when you actually got there, you get a completely different feel. So
Mhm.
my decision to stay in Iowa was actually a very unexpected one because um, before the application process, I priority to some other factors that actually will be more advantageous to some other schools. But when I actually saw all of the schools and I recalculated everything in my head, and it's like maybe it's gonna be more beneficial this way.
Mhm.
But the main rationale that I think, if there's one thing that I say about how I chose my program, was to think of it as an investment. So, you invest your time,
Mhm.
5 years, of your life, and you invest your money. Well, I mean, you're funded to study, but basically on a minimum wage, you're not making a bank for
Mhm.
a long period of time. So it's a period of time to think about. But then what is going to be the outcome of that? Like,
Mhm.
or is the lab is going to be strong enough? Is the lab getting grants? Is the lab how are the alumni doing? Like, are they doing postdoc? It's like what are the placement they got afterwards?
Mhm.
And the track record of the PI
Mhm.
basically with their and imagine if I get into that lab, that would be the kind of outcome that I would expect.
Mhm.
Um, and how marketable the degree is as well.
Yeah.
So
Well, it sounds like you had a slightly different math equation before doing the Fearless Grad program. And I think that we kind of opened up some boxes and we're like, think about this. Or like, so did that kind of open your eyes a little bit?
yes, we had that module about rate of return and in the last module we also thought about different factors that can factor into this decision to well one of to be very honest, like one of the reason that I did not think that I would likely choose Iowa first is because I've been here for too long.
Yes,
And
you do get bored
and
places. And like it's
yes,
cold there. Like I get it. Like
yes. That's why I was like, it's a very, very unexpected decision whenever I told anyone. But so before that, I was like, I've been here 5 years. Well, do I want to stay here for the next 5 years? Do I not? Do I? So that's when I visited the West Coast and the East
Mhm.
Coast, and I was like, I really want to go to the coast. I really want to, or at least like somewhere else for a variety
Yeah,
of
totally.
living experience, right?
Yeah.
Um, but then again, thinking back, you know, I will actually give me a really good pay,
Hmm.
and the cost of living is really low.
Hmm.
So that is a big plus compared to, if you go to the coast, you really have to sell a leg and an arm. Not gonna lie, and you actually go there and I'm not gonna lie, see the student struggle is real, and you can get that vibe even when you visit the place,
Mm.
and that's when I start to think, do I want to be like them?
Mm.
If you see the grad students and you see like, do I want to be like them, or do I want to live somewhere comfortable?
Hmm.
And also, think about the fact that my lab here in Iowa is also very strong.
Hmm. Yeah,
has a
you're not like
very is very well
sacrificing.
funded.
Yeah, right. You're right. You want to have a good
Yeah,
balance. Like you don't want to just have good cost of living and a
right.
terrible lab. Like, right, you want a good balance. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you
Yeah,
talked to you
yeah. So
oh, go ahead. Sorry. I didn't mean to cut
no,
you.
go ahead. I'm
I was gonna say, so why do you think like was this your first time applying to PhD programs or did you ever apply before?
I actually did apply last year, straight out of college in my last year in college. By that time I knew that I wanted to go into research, but quite frankly, I like my decision to go into research is was made a little bit late. So I only decided that I think in the in the second semester of my junior year. So it's like my seventh semester, my sixth, seventh semester or something. So it was pretty late. So I did not, so quite frankly, I did not have a lot of research experience, and probably that's why I was not successful in that cycle. Also, also because I did not have the experience, and also so I did not also know I did not have a clear picture of my research interest also of what I want to do
Mhm.
and how to tie that into what I currently have. So it was hard to pitch basically. So
Right.
I think,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
It's interesting you say that's a late.
everything definitely changed after like a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's interesting you say that was a late decision point because a lot of people don't know it until after they graduate. So at least you had like what, like 2 semesters to, think about it a little bit. But some people like, they're like 25 and they're like, oh, I want to do this. And like they didn't do anything in undergrad. So like I hear you on being like late to the party, but also at least you were at the party. So you at least started it. But yeah, makes sense. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, you were very successful this time. So any like tips or ideas about why you think you were so successful?
I think I think one of the main thing that would definitely help is to talk to the PIs, which is something that we all fear. Like probably one of the reason why I was not successful the cycle before was because I did not talk to any PIs before I sent in an application because I had this mindset of like, oh, they like me enough, well, they're just gonna pick me. Um, it doesn't work. Actually, it's a job, and we just have to, and it's even when you're a scholar, when you're a scientist, networking is one of the most important skill, arguably, beside your technical skill. I think out of all the 9 schools that I applied, 6 schools I got were all lab-based admission. So I talked to all of those PI before I had an application in.
And so,
So
but you
so
said,
I so
oh yeah, no, that clearly is a huge benefit. But you said you were like scared to do it. So
no.
did did this program like help you kind of get over that fear or or was it like how did that work? How did you go from like, oh, this is like nerve-wracking to like reaching out and being successful with 6 different people?
Yeah, it's helpful to know that it's not just you doing that, but there are also other people who are doing that in the community and also fear of doing that just like you. So it's not an irrational fear that you'll have it yourself, but other people are in the same boat. But good things that we're all in this together and we all do it together. So, you know, you were right when you said that, worst case, you just get a no answer from a PI. And I did get some of that. I did get, but I actually had, I mean, most of the time they actually answer me, and we actually got something scheduled, and I also had times when I talked to a PI and I realized, oh, this is not the kind of research that I want to do. We were just chatting about research, and we just kept talking past each other. And like she was talking about some of her research I didn't understand, and I was talking about mine, she was not understanding. I was like, let's not waste application money on this.
Money
So
and
there are
energy.
more benefits than,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So there are more benefits to that, and the
Hmm.
risk is actually so low. The worst case, they're just not going to answer,
Hmm.
and which is fine. And that you're not going to apply to that school. You're just going to have to open your space for other schools too. So, um, and I think that actually is the most helpful thing in the process, because in, like I was talking about, the difference between the lab-based admission and the program-based. Well, in the program-based, they just view you just on papers, and then they decide who they want to take to an interview. But when you actually talk to a PI before you even put in your papers, they already have a vision of who you are and what you're capable of. You have a sense of what they want from the students, because a lot of times PIs even tell me what they want from their students, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to highlight those things in my SOP when I send it to you. So
Totally.
I think, yeah, I think there are like way more benefits than risk in doing that. So
Yeah. But you're not wrong. It's a logical fear, and like it feels real. It feels like, because our bodies are evolved, from like, millions of years ago, where like we're supposed to like a fearful thing is like someone's going to eat us. And so like our brain is like, don't send this email because someone's going to eat us. Like a lion is going to attack us. But in reality, there is no lion. It is just an email. And yeah, if you get to have a good conversation, I like your point about it tells you good and bad things. Like, exactly. Like, you would have maybe spent another 10 hours on an application that did not deserve it because, you had that conversation. So that's also really, really important. Cool. So why did you decide to, like, how did you decide to do the Fearless Grad program? Like, how did you decide to, like, you talk about the degree being an investment. How did you decide to invest in yourself on this upfront leg of their journey? Like, you could have spent money on like an iPhone or like a new TV or something. So like, how did you decide to do this?
well, I think well, first of all, I have to be real when saying that I think the cost is reasonable for the kind of packet that we got, and it's affordable. I mean, for someone like me who was just out of college, I don't have a lot of savings, so I don't compared to other services on there, it's affordable for the kind of of um, training or the kind of service that I got, and it fits with my own way of learning. Like, I'm pretty much a self learner, and I learned my own pace, and the modules were very size bite design, so I can learn at my own pace. I can move faster if I want, and then I can basically make it my own, while at the same time it's still very comprehensive and very informative um, packet, and with the right amount of individualized training, with the CV and with the resume and the SOP editing as well. So I think it's a really good for money kind of packet,
Mm-hmm.
and as well as we also get to interact with you weekly for any kind of questions that we have, and we
Mm-hmm.
also have this community that you share your thoughts with other people to get the kind of emotional support that you have. It's a stressful process.
Mm-hmm.
I so I think so that's why I think it's it was a good investment because of that reason. I think it fits my needs and it's comprehensive. It's and at the same time it's affordable.
Mhm.
So
That's awesome. And that's like what we aim to do, right? We aim to provide amazing service at a price point that is more accessible, like to most, yeah,
yep.
to most people. And that also gets you where you want to go. And then hopefully, my big goal is to like build a network. So maybe in a year or so, one of the new Fearless grad reaches out to you and asks about your lab and says, "Hey, what do you think? Should I come work here or something?" Right? Like that would be ideal. So that's the hope.
Yeah.
Um, Anything you would tell yourself a year ago, like think about where you were a year ago in like that headspace, like anything you would say to yourself.
So a year ago, I was so right around this time, I actually were getting like rejection letters continuously from programs that I were applying last cycle. So I was, my plan was, to get into grad school and then happily travel home for the summer because I haven't been there for so long. But then, so my plan completely changed. I didn't get into any programs, so my plan had to change completely. It's like, oh shoot, now I had to find a job to I have to take some
Mm-hmm.
advantage out of my time being here,
Mm-hmm.
basically. So, and I also realized that maybe the weakness in my application is I did not have enough experience. So, it's time to do that. So I went through kind of a process of applying crazy for different full-time research assistant jobs. And, it was not all easy at all on its own, to say nothing of the PhD. But, you know, I I was lucky enough to get to a place that, it was good. It was a good learning spot for me, but also good to get me some savings and also some networks that will be helpful for me for my PhD. So, you know, if I were to tell myself something a year ago, I would say, it's maybe if you don't get to where you were at right now, which is, what I really wanted then was to get into grad school, right? But I didn't. So
Sorry, I lost your last sentence. Could you say it one more time?
yeah, so if I had to say one thing to myself a year ago, is probably, if you can't get to your goal right away, it's not the end of the world. Like there are other doors that will open in the meantime to lead you to, the next goal. That it can be the same one, it can be a different one,
Mm-hmm.
but it's um,
That's
when one door closes, there's another one open. Kind of cliche, but I think it's a good way to think about it.
it's a healthy way to think about it because if we obsess over one avenue, you're right, like we literally just miss half of the other like world, right? So yeah, it makes perfect sense. Awesome. Oh, would you recommend the Fearless Grad program to others?
I would. I think I would recommend it to people who are motivated, um, you know, pretty sure that they want to do a PhD, and they just want to invest time and some money into, just really get yourself some skills that for myself, it's just not for the PhD application, but also it can be lifelong, how to present yourself in the most favorable way, how to use the mechanics, how to use the language. They're all going to be helpful in somewhere along the way. It's not just for now.
That's
So,
also one of my big goals is that like, yeah, I don't, my goal, like, yeah, it's to get you in, but it's also to create like the next phase that you're going to be successful in too. And yeah, like I kind of feel like this is almost like a PhD training, like because once you get there, you should be a few steps ahead of other people, right? Because you kind of understand and like you said, you've built some skills that are going to be necessary. So that's awesome. Well, I really, really appreciate that. Anything else you just want to share just to others who are going through the process or anything like that?
Um, I think that is considering getting a PhD. It's I think well, I started my process, later in the year, September-ish, but it's not a bad idea to just kind of get yourself some ideas of what you want right now, but you don't have to stress out if you're not already in this. But if you are very motivated, you can go ahead and do it. Um, but if for everyone else who are actually applying in the last cycle and waiting results for now, I would just say um, just hang in there. It's not the end of the battle yet. And even if the cycle does not turn out to be what you want, it's not uh, that it's never gonna be. Like I said, there will be more doors that will open and eventually lead to something that you might want to do. So
Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for speaking with me and have a really good day. Nice to see you.
yeah.